You all can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So let's begin today's class. So topics for today. We are first going to start off with our Dinno Kalmo prayer. We'll understand this prayer. Last time we prayed this prayer and we briefly talked about it. Today we'll go into a little more detail about this and understand what exactly this prayer is all about. Yeah. Then we are going to do a little bit of history. History, not the kind that you study in school, but the history of how we Parsis, we Zoroastrians came from Iran to India. Okay, so there is a book written about it called Qissa-e-Sanjan, and we'll be talking about that. And basically that talks about this whole history of how Zoroastrians, when they lost to the Arab conquest, how they were treated so badly, they were exploited, and eventually they had to leave Iran and flee from there. And they landed up in India, on the Indian shores, and how this whole thing came about. So that's going to be a little story about that. And then, of course, we will have our usual quiz and the Shahnama. Okay, so if you are all ready, let us begin. I'm going to mute all of you. If you have any questions, you can unmute and ask, or you can also put it in the chat box. Okay, so Dinno Kalmo is a prayer which is an affirmation of the religion. Okay, so this is a prayer where we say that I am a Parsi Zoroastrian, I am a Zarathustri, and you are confirming, you are affirming your faith in this religion. And the first time you are made to pray this prayer is during your Navjot ritual. Okay, so at the time of Navjot, before the priest makes you wear your sadra and kasti. Okay, so those of you whose Navjot is done will remember it. And especially if it's happened recently, it will be very fresh in your memory. So before the priest makes you wear your sadra and kasti, you are made to reconfirm your faith in the religion. So by reciting this prayer, you are telling the priest, you are telling God, you are telling Aura Mazda, Zarathustra, and the whole congregation, the people who have gathered there for your Navjot, okay, which is called the Anjuman. So in front of the whole Anjuman, you are promising, you are making these promises, you are confirming your faith in the religion that I am a Parsi Zarathustri and I will always remain one all my life. Okay, so it is a prayer of affirmation which you are made to pray before you get your first sadra and kasti, before your Navjot is done, at the time when your Navjot is done. Now it's a very simple prayer, a short prayer, but an important one. And you make 4 promises in this prayer. Okay, so let us see what are these 4 promises. They are very simple promises. The first is you are saying that Aura Mazda is my only God. Okay. So we know that Aura Mazda is our God, the God of us Parsis, Zoroastrians. So first thing you are saying, Aura Mazda is my God. The second is that Zarathustra is my only prophet. Yeah, we all know these things. These are all simple things. They are common knowledge, but you are making these promises to God, to Aura Mazda, to Zarathustra in front of everyone. The third promise is that Mazdeyasni Zarathustri is my only religion. Okay, so you are saying that I will always follow this Zarathustri, the Zoroastrian religion. And the last one is a combination of all these 3, that I will be faithful to my God, to my prophet, and my religion all my life. So till the day I die, I will be faithful to Aura Mazda, to Zarathustra, and to my religion. I will never give up the religion. never ever in my life for anything. So these are the promises that you are making. So it's a very important prayer. It's something which affirms your faith in the religion and which you should be praying every day. Also, when you tie the kasti, okay, every time we tie the kasti, these 4 promises are renewed. You think of these promises whenever you tie the kasti. So when you think of these things, you know, when we in one of the previous sessions, we had talked about how to do a kasti properly. That time also we had discussed this. So we'll discuss it now again. When you tie the knots of the kasti, okay, you tie 4 knots. So first 2 knots in the front and 2 at the back. So in the front, when you tie your first knot, you think of the first promise that Aura Mazda is my only God. When you tie the second knot in the front, you think about Zarathustra, that he is my only prophet. Then you take the kasti to the back. And when you start tying on the back, the first back knot, you think of your religion, that Zarathustra religion is my only religion. And the last one is that I will be faithful to my God, prophet, and my religion all my life. Okay. So when you tie the 4 knots, every time you tie the kasti, think of it, and it will reaffirm your faith. It will strengthen your faith in the religion and in Zarathustra and Aura Mazda. Okay, simple prayer, simple thing to remember. And every time you do the kasti, now you can keep thinking of these things. So let us recite the prayer first, and then we will try to understand its meaning. Okay.
बनावे यज़दे बख्शायंदे बख्शायज़गर मेहरबान रजिश्तयाओ चिस्तयाओ मज़ददादयाओ अशोनियाओ देनयाओ वंगुयाओ माज़दयस्नोइश दिन बेहरास्त वदरोस्त के खुदाई बरखल्क फिरिस्तादे इन हस्त के ज़रथोश्त आवरदे हस्त दिन दिने ज़रथोश्त दिने अहुरा मज़दा दादे ज़रथोश्त स्पीतमान अशेम वहु वहिष्टेम अस्ति उष्टा अस्ति उष्टा अहमाय यत अशाय वहिष्टाय अशेम रजिश्तयाओ चिस्तयाओ मज़ददातयाओ अशोनियाओ देनयाओ वंगुयाओ माज़दयस्नोइश दिन बेहरास्त वदरोस्त के खुदाई बरखल्क फिरिस्तादे इन हस्त के ज़रथोश्त आवरदे हस्त दिन दिने ज़रथोश्त दिने अहुरा मज़दा दादे ज़रथोश्त स्पीतमान अशेम वहु वहिष्टेम अस्ति उष्टा अहमाय यत अशाय वहिष्टाय अशेम रजिश्तयाओ चिस्तयाओ मज़ददातयाओ अशोनियाओ देनयाओ वंगुयाओ माज़दयस्नोइश दिन बेहरास्त वदरोस्त के खुदाई बरखल्क फिरिस्तादे इन हस्त के ज़रथोश्त आवरदे हस्त दिन दिने ज़रथोश्त दिने अहुरा मज़दा दादे ज़रथोश्त स्पीतमान अशेम वहु वहिष्टेम अस्ति उष्टा अहमाय यत अशाय वहिष्टाय अशेम.
Okay, so let's look at the meaning of this prayer. The first line is saying, in the name of God, who is merciful, forgiving, and kind. Okay. If you see, all our prayers always begin with an invocation to God, to Aura Mazda. Okay. Usually Shnautra Aura Mazdao, or Paname Yazdan, Auramazda Kodai, or something related to God to Auramazda. So the first line that you see in black, Baname Azare Bakshayande Bakshayasgar Mirban, means this: in the name of God, who is merciful, forgiving, and kind. The next line, the red colored one, says that we revere, we worship, we adore the righteous, good Mazdiasni religion, which is most proper, grants wisdom, and is created by Aura. Okay. So the next line is praising our Mazdiasni religion and saying that it was created by Aura Mazda and it is a good, righteous religion. It is very proper. It grants us wisdom. Okay, it makes us think. That was one of the important things which Zarathustra always used to say: think of things for yourself, man by man for himself. Okay, don't go blindly, don't have blind faith. Use your brains, think and make the right choice, make the right decision. The next line, the blue one, says, this is the good, truthful and proper religion which has been sent by God for us, for the world. Okay, so God, Aura Mazda, has sent this religion to us through Zarathustra, and it is a good religion, it's proper, it's truthful. Okay. And the last line, the green one, says, this is the religion which Prophet Zarathustra has brought. This is the religion of Zarathustra, the religion of Aura Mazda, brought to us by Zarathustra's Pitama. Okay, so it is a prayer which has been, which affirms the faith in our religion. Okay. Okay, we have a few questions in the chat box. The first one is, first line is not repeated. Yeah, normally you say Baname as a Bakshayande Bakshayasgar Mirban, and then the rest of the prayer is repeated 3 times. Some people say the whole thing also 3 times, which is also not wrong. And you can pray it anytime. Yes, you can do it after the Sarosh Baj. You can do it at the end of your prayers. Okay, next question is, okay, next question is also the same. Why Baname Yazdan is not spoken thrice. Yeah, as I said, there are 2 schools of thought. Some of them say that only the first line is said only once and the rest of it is put repeated thrice. In some others books, you will find the whole thing to be repeated thrice. Either way, it is fine. There is nothing wrong with either of them. Okay. So even if you remember God 3 times, it is not going to be wrong or hurt you or harm you. Okay, so simple prayer, which helps us to reaffirm our faith, keeps reminding us about God, about Aura Mazda, Zarathustra and our religion, and will benefit us in strengthening our faith in our religion. Okay, so we move on to the next topic. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, so let's move on to the next topic, which is the Qissa-e-Sanjan. Okay, so Hutokshi auntie will be taking this. Hutokshi, if you are ready, can you please unmute yourself and take over?
Good morning, everybody. Today we'll be talking about a nice story about how we landed here in India and how we have prospered over the centuries. Okay. See, our original homeland was Persia, which is now called Iran. Okay. And this story of how we came here, we have got the most complete or comprehensive record through the Qissa-e-Sanjan, which is a book which is written by a Parsi priest from Navsari, whose name was Baman Kekobar Hormaltia Sanjana. It was written in 1599 CE. It is written in Persian and it's in the form of a poem in couplets, which are 2 lines which rhyme with each other. and has covered a whole lot of topics, but it is from that we get a most detailed record of what happened in Iran and why we decided to migrate over here. Okay, so this is what the Qissa-e-Sanjan is about. Though originally in Persian, we also have a Gujarati translation by the Okay, now let's go to the story of how can we have the next slide, please. Darayus, can we have the next slide? What happened is that the last dynasty, Persian dynasty that was ruling Iran before we came here was the Sasanian dynasty, and the king was King Yazdegerd III. The Arabs defeated him in 636 or 637 CE. And once they defeated us, they forced the Persians to convert to Islam. They gave us only two choices, either accept a new religion or they would be taken as slaves or killed. And a lot of atrocities or, like hardships were put on to the Zoroastrians. They fled to mountainous regions. Now, Ko is a Persian word for mountain. So those mountainous regions were known as Kohistan, just as we have Hindustan, Pakistan. So Kohistan means mountainous region, a place where they are surrounded by mountains. It's desolate, difficult to live places, just to preserve the religion. But then the invading Arabs even pursued them over there. There was more persecution, more humiliation. And then finally, we decided that enough is enough. We will not be able to survive here anymore and preserve our religion. So the elders of the Persians advised the people that take your religious things and go elsewhere where you can stay peacefully and follow your own religion. So this decision was finally taken. Okay. And so what we did is we sailed towards the east from the ports. As you see in the map, there's a port Hormuz and Makran, and that red line shows how did we know this route? Because there were trading links earlier. So this was a route that they were sort of familiar with. And they also knew the people who plied trade on those routes, were the Gujaratis. So we decided to take this route and we came to India. Okay. Now we left in boats with women and children in those days and sailed towards the east. As I said, following earlier trading route, they landed at Diu and stayed for 19 years. Diu is a small island, but it was ruled by the Portuguese. So we stayed for some time, but we were not very comfortable and not allowed to set up our religious institutes and all over there. So we set sail again and migrated further. Now, when we were going from Diu towards the main coast of India, we encountered a very severe storm. The boat was shaking violently and everybody was scared that they would be drowned. So what did the Russians do? They prayed to Ahura Mazda for help and protection. And then they said, resign to his will. If we are meant to survive, we will survive. Otherwise, it is your wish. But we have done our very best to preserve our religion. And they made a promise to Ahura Mazda that if we reach land safely, we will certainly build a fire temple there and Atashbaram there. The storm subsided miraculously and finally reached Sanjan safely. Here there's an interesting anecdote which has been handed down, that it seems that the people who were the oarsmen and the people who were rowing the boat were Gujarati, and the Persians were praying the Yathahu Vario prayer. They could not understand much, but they only sort of understood Thabario. So when we were praying Athabario, they also were saying Parsi Taro Thabario. So this shows how much strength is there in our prayers and how it helps us face whatever difficulty it is. Now this is one story. Now we landed in Sanjan. What happened? Sanjan was ruled by a local king called Jadi Rana. So the head of the Zoroastrian priest, that is Neryosang Dawal, when we went and we asked him for shelter, we want to settle in this land, we want to preserve our religion, and we will be friends. Now, the king was a bit apprehensive. Apprehensive means he was a bit scared because Persians were tall, quite well built and military. They thought that they were coming here to conquer. So he asked his minister to get a bowl of milk which was filled to the brim and handed it over to that Dastuji, Neryasang Dawal. Now, what does that signify? See, my kingdom is already full of people and there's no place for you. What did Neryasang Dawal do? See the wisdom in those days. He put his ring and he added some sugar to the milk. Now, what happens when you add sugar to milk? It dissolves. It doesn't increase the volume of milk. So, no milk was spilled. And that way he conveyed to the king that though they are very few, we will dissolve like sugar in milk. We will sweeten your milk and we will never displace you or overthrow you. The king was impressed. And then Neryasang Dawal explained the salient features of a religion in Sanskrit slokas, because that was the language which the kingdom understood. So this priest was not only well versed in his religious knowledge and rituals, but he also knew Sanskrit. So what are the main features of a religion was explained to the Indian king in the language that he could understand. The king agreed to give us shelter and said that you have to follow the following conditions. What were those conditions? One thing is we should wear the local costume, and it is from that we have started wearing the sari and the gara and things of that sort. Follow the local customs, not convert people. We were not in conversion right from the beginning, and to lay down the weapons. Why lay down the weapons? They were worried that we would try to conquer them. Okay, so this is how a truce was accepted, this thing, and we started staying at Sanjan. And they said this is a Persian sentence, which means that we will be friends of Hindustan. Mo Hindustan yar boshim. Mo is we, Hindustan, you know. Yar is friend, and we will be, boshim is we will become. So we will become friends of Hindustan. So this is the story of sugar in milk. And in this picture, you see that King Jadirana, you see Neryasang Dawal adding sugar to the milk in a bowl, okay? And his minister surrounding it, okay? So this is the story of how we came here, how we asked for permission and started settling down at Sanjan, okay? Now, we settled in Sanjan, and then after we had settled down a bit, then again Neryasang Dawal approached the king and said, okay, we had promised our God that if we land safely and our lives are safe, we will build an Atash Viram. So we want some place to build an Atash Viram with certain conditions, like that only Zoroastrians can pray there, etc. Now the king was convinced that we are not going to harm his kingdom or his people in any way. So he gladly agreed. And that is how the beginning of the this thing, consecration of Iran Shah or Atash Viram started under the guidance of Dastuji Neryasang Dawal. Okay. So then we started building our first Atash Viram. Where was it built? At Sanja. And why was it called Iran Shah? Because after King Yazdigar died, there was no king. So this fire became a king, and that's why it's called Iran Shah, meaning king of Iran. Okay. And thus, those ancient Parsis fulfilled their promise to Aurangzeb and Behram Yazar, right? Because Behram Yazar, Atash Behram is the fire of victory, right? And Behram Yazar presides over victory. Okay. Can we have the next slide, please?
Okay. Can you please go to the previous slide, please, just for 1 second?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
How did we get sugar? We carried on, we traveled for so long by boat. So obviously we had some food and something to sustain us. Then over the years, first we settled in Sanjan. Then as more Zoroastrians came in boats via sea, via land to Afghanistan, we settled in nearby areas called Khambat, Bharuch, Surat, Nargol, besides Sanjan and Navsari. Okay. And over the years, we have integrated into Indian society, yet maintained our distinct traditions, customs, and ethnic identity. And we have truly remained as sugar in milk. We are loyal. We have made our kingdoms, I mean not kingdoms, wherever we have resided, prosperous through business, through agriculture, through hard work,
Dono will be.
and increase the prosperity of our new motherland. So we truly became the sugar in the milk of India. Okay, this is a beautiful legacy. The hardships that our ancestors went through so that they could preserve our religion in its pristine way. And we are grateful to India for allowing us to preserve our religion the way we want it. Now, as youngsters, it is our legacy to carry this wonderful thing forward. Because if we stay true to our religion, marry within our religion, and maintain all the tarikats and this thing, we will surely go ahead, no matter how few we are. But if we start going into other religions or marry this thing, our ethnic identity will be lost and the sugar will disappear from the milk. Thank you.
Thank you, Hutokshi. The session will be getting over soon, so we will restart after that. There is one more question. What was the significance of the gold ring? And actually, there are two. Yeah, Hutokshi, please.
Yeah, tell. Guys, go ahead.
Okay, there are two kind of schools of thought. There are some who say that it wasn't really sugar; it was only a gold ring, and there is another account which talks about the sugar. So, which is why we have included both these in our. Thank you, Hutokshi auntie.
Wow, that was an awesome story, especially the part about sugar and milk.
Yes, indeed, Dono.
But I feel very sad that our forefathers had to go through so many hardships and pain and suffering.
Yes, we know, but they did it all for the sake of our religion, to preserve and protect it, which is why it is very important, like Hutokshi auntie said, that it is very important that we always follow our religion and remain faithful to it.
Yes, sir. I will always remember these promises and abide by them.
That's very good.
Actually, you know, that girl Pooja in my class gave me some chocolates and a I love you card on Valentine's Day.
Oh, really?
I told her, thank you. We can certainly be friends, but lovers, never.
Well, you children are really still too young to be lovers.
I also told her that when I grow up, I will marry a Parsi girl only.
Oh, that's very nice. I'm really happy to hear that. Yes, we must respect all religions, make friends with all kinds of people, but we follow only our Zoroastrian religion, which is a wonderful religion. And when you grow up, make sure you marry only a Parsi girl or a Parsi boy. I'm really very proud of you, Donu.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we move on to the next topic, which is our quiz. So before the quiz, the Hall of Fame. So these are all the children who are there in the Hall of Fame with the number of times that they have won or had all correct answers. And if you are all ready for today's quiz, yes, then we are going to come up with the questions for today. Okay. So as usual, 4 questions. Please write all your answers in one single chat. Okay, don't split it across multiple chats because then they will get lost and we will not be able to keep track of them. Send it in a private chat to me. The first 3 entries with all correct answers will get the prizes. So here are the questions. Question 1. When the people asked Dastuji Kukadaru for a donation of 10,000 for building the Anjuman at Asbiram, what did he give them? Question 2. Who was the last Sasanian king? Question 3. Name the king of Sanjan who gave shelter to the refugee Zoroastrians who were running away from Iran and landed in India. And the last question is, what are the 4 promises that you make when praying Dinno Kalmo? Okay, so please write the answers in one single chat and send it across on a private chat.